Welcome to Galactic Nova Stories, where cosmic emotions come to life. Your journey begins now. The docking bay of interstellar outpost Epsilon 12 hummed with the usual mechanical sounds of a busy trade hub, until it didn't. Alex Reed, chief xenobiologist of the human exploration vessel Horizon, noticed the sudden hush that fell over the crowded space as the Lumerian delegation entered. Tall, slender beings with iridescent skin that shifted colors like oil on water, they moved with an ethereal grace that made even the most seasoned spacers stop and stare. Remember, this is the first official cultural exchange with the Lumerians, Captain Tanner had briefed them earlier. They've been observing humanity for centuries, but kept their distance until now. Don't mess this up. Alex straightened his uniform and adjusted the translator at his throat. As the diplomatic team's cultural expert, he would be the first human to engage with the visitors on an extended basis. No pressure. The leader of the Lumerian delegation approached, her skin cycling through blues and purples that seemed to shimmer in rhythm with her breathing. "I am Mira, elder representative of the Lumerian collective," she announced, her voice melodic even through the translation device. "We are pleased to finally meet humanity in person." Something about the way she said "finally" made Alex's spine tingle. The Lumerians had been studying humanity for centuries. How was that possible when Earth had only achieved interstellar travel 50 years ago? "The honor is ours," Alex replied, bowing slightly. "I'm Dr. Alex Reed, xenobiologist and cultural liaison for this exchange." Mira tilted her head, almost bird-like in her curiosity. "You are the one who will learn our ways and share humanity's—" Yes. Her skin rippled with amber tones. Amusement, perhaps. "Interesting choice. You carry much weight in your mind." Before Alex could decipher that cryptic statement, Mira gestured to a smaller Lumerian standing slightly behind her. "This is Nira, my daughter. She will be your primary guide during your stay with us." The younger Lumerian stepped forward. Where Mira's movements were fluid and practiced, Nira's had an almost anxious energy. Her skin flickered between deep blues and hesitant greens as she regarded Alex. "Hello," she said simply, extending a six-fingered hand in what was clearly an attempt at a human greeting. Alex reached out, closed the distance between their species. The moment their hands touched, everything stopped, not metaphorically, literally. The bustling movement of the docking bay froze. The distant hum of machinery went silent. Even the air itself seemed to hang motionless. Only Alex and Nira remained animated, in a universe suddenly paused. Her skin flared bright with shock, pulsing colors Alex hadn't seen before. You can move," she gasped, yanking her hand away. Time lurched back into motion. The background noise of the station returned. People resumed their activities as if nothing had happened. "What was that?" Alex whispered, heart pounding. Nira's skin had gone almost translucent with what Alex instinctively recognized as fear. She glanced at her mother, but Mira was engaged with Captain Tanner, unaware of what had transpired. "That shouldn't have happened," Nira murmured, her voice barely registering through the translator. "Humans aren't supposed to be able to perceive temporal shifts." Alex's scientific mind raced. "Temporal shifts? You mean time manipulation?" Nira's colors stabilized into a cautious silver. "We need to speak privately. What just happened between us? It changes everything." Alex followed Nira through the twisting corridors of the Lumerian vessel Eternal Light, an organic-looking ship that seemed more grown than built. The walls pulsed with the same iridescence as Lumerian skin, responding to their presence with subtle shifts of light and texture. "My people have been observing Earth for over 3,000 years, Nira explained once they reached a small chamber she called her thinking space. The room configured itself around them, surfaces rising from the floor to form comfortable seating adapted to both their physiologies. 3,000 years. Alex tried to keep his voice steady. "That's impossible. We would have detected your presence." Nira's skin rippled with what he was beginning to recognize as their version of a sad smile. "Not if we exist partially outside your time stream." She raised her hand, and suddenly the air between them coalesced into a three-dimensional model of reality that Alex could somehow understand intuitively. "Your species perceives time as linear, a straight line from past to future. My people experience it more multidimensionally. Like time travelers, Alex asked, fascinated despite his skepticism. Not exactly. We don't travel through time, we exist adjacent to it. We can observe multiple time streams simultaneously and occasionally step sideways to interact with them. Alex leaned forward. And that's what happened when we touched. A sideways step. Yes, but that's what's impossible. Humans shouldn't be able to maintain consciousness during a temporal shift. It's why we've been able to observe your species without detection for millennia. Her colors darkened with concern. Yet you remained aware when I accidentally shifted. That has never happened before. The implications stunned Alex. Are you saying I'm somehow different? I don't know, but it's why I brought you here in secret. Her skin flickered nervously. The elders must not know about this yet. Why? What would they do? Neera's colors dimmed to midnight blue. Our arrival isn't the cultural exchange your people believe it to be. The elders have detected a catastrophic temporal anomaly centered on Earth within the next year, a rupture that could collapse multiple realities. Ice formed in Alex's stomach. You're here to prevent this? To study it. The elders believe it's inevitable. They came to observe and record data about humanity before your extinction. Her colors shifted to a determined gold. But I think your ability to perceive temporal shifts might be significant. You could be key to understanding, maybe even preventing, whatever's coming. Alex's mind reeled with questions, but one took precedence. Does anyone else know the real purpose of your mission? No. The elders have shared a sanitized reason for our visit with your leaders. They believe we're here for cultural and technological exchange. And we are, in a way, Alex said grimly. You're just exchanging with a species you believe won't exist next year. Neera's skin rippled with a pattern Alex couldn't interpret. I shouldn't be telling you this. It violates our most sacred protocols. But when our hands touched, she hesitated. I felt something I've never experienced before. Like our minds. Connected across dimensional barriers that should be impossible to breach. If what you're saying is true, we need to tell someone. Who would believe us? And the elders would simply erase any evidence. They can manipulate short-term memory in most species. Alex's scientific instincts kicked in. Then we need proof. We need to understand what makes me different and whether there are others like me. It's dangerous, Neera warned, her colors pulsing with concern. If the elders discover what we're doing, more dangerous than the end of human existence, Alex countered. Neera's colors settled into a resolute violet. We'll need to experiment. With your ability, carefully. Then let's start now, Alex said, extending his hand. Show me how time really works. Focus on my hand, Neera instructed. They sat cross-legged in her quarters, facing each other. 2 weeks had passed since their first encounter, 2 weeks of secret meetings and careful experiments disguised as cultural exchange sessions. Alex stared at her six-fingered hand hovering inches from his own. After their initial discovery, they'd been unable to replicate the time-stopping effect through casual contact. Whatever had happened that first day required something more. I'm going to initiate a minor temporal shift, Neera explained. Try to feel the ripple before it happens. Alex nodded, concentrating. He'd learned that Lemurian temporal manipulation utilized what they called frequency resonance, essentially vibrating their molecular structure at specific patterns to step sideways through time. Neera's skin began to pulse with deep indigo waves. The air between them seemed to thicken, like invisible honey gathering density. Alex felt a strange pressure behind his eyes, a pulling sensation that hadn't been present during their previous attempts. Something's different, he whispered. Yes, she replied, her voice distant as if traveling across a vast space. I'm pushing deeper this time. The Elder Council is meeting today. They can't monitor me while in session. Their fingertips touched. The world didn't just stop this time, it shattered. Alex gasped as reality fragmented into crystalline facets around them, each shard containing frozen moments like photographs. In one, he saw himself from behind, in another from above. In others, versions of himself he didn't recognize. Older, younger, dressed differently. What's happening? His voice echoed strangely, as if speaking in a cathedral. You're seeing time splinters, Nira explained, her voice steady despite the wonder in her eyes. Most species can't perceive this state at all. Even for Lumerians, it takes decades of training. She guided him to stand, and together they walked through the fragmented reality. Each step felt weightless, as if they were moving through water, without resistance. These are possibility branches, she explained, pointing to different shards, potential futures and alternate pasts, all existing simultaneously in the quantum layer. Alex reached toward one fragment, showing him in what looked like a military uniform he'd never worn. The moment his fingers made contact, a flash of memories not his own flooded his mind. A war, devastation, leadership thrust upon him. He yanked his hand back with a gasp. I felt another me. Impossible, Nira breathed, her skin blazing with excited colors. Even Lumerians can't directly interface with alternate time streams. Alex studied her with new understanding. That's why your elders are so interested in humanity, isn't it? We're not just facing extinction. We're somehow central to this temporal anomaly. I'm beginning to think so, Nira admitted. But we need to return now. Maintaining this state too long could attract attention. Before Alex could respond, Nira squeezed his hand. Reality snapped back into focus with such force that he staggered, nearly falling. That was... He started, searching for words. Revolutionary. Nira finished, her skin cycling through excited yellows and oranges. No human should be able to do what you just did. No Lumerian your age could navigate time splinters so naturally. Alex sat heavily on the nearest surface. What does it mean? It means the elders are wrong about humanity. Determination set in her features. They see your species as primitive, temporally speaking. But if even one human can perceive and interact with the temporal fabric, then maybe we're not doomed after all, Alex finished. Nira's skin settled into resolute blue. We need to find others like you. The temporal anomaly the elders detected, if it's related to human consciousness rather than just physics. Then humans might be the solution, not just victims, Alex concluded. A soft chime interrupted them, the Lumerian equivalent of a communication alert. The council meeting is ending, Nira said, suddenly tense. We need to be seen engaging in normal cultural exchange activities. As they prepared to return to public spaces, Alex caught her hand once more. Nira, why are you helping me? You're risking everything. Her skin flushed with colors he hadn't seen before, deep purples and soft pinks intertwining. Because when we touched that first day, I saw something the elders refused to see. That humanity's relationship with time isn't primitive. It's just different. And different isn't lesser. She looked away, her colors deepening. And because nobody should face extinction without a chance to fight back. Each subject exhibits the same anomalous brainwave pattern, Alex explained, projecting his findings onto the laboratory wall. For the past month, he'd been conducting routine neurological studies on crew members as part of the cultural exchange program, cover for identifying others who shared his temporal sensitivity. Nira studied the wavelength patterns with interest. Her skin shifted to analytical blues and greens. These rhythmic spikes, they're like our temporal resonance frequencies. Exactly, Alex nodded, excitement building. I've identified 17 crew members with the pattern. That's almost 20% of our complement. They had converted a small science lab into their private research space, ostensibly for studying comparative neurophysiology. Captain Tanner had been pleased by the apparent progress in human-Lumerian relations, unaware of their true purpose. The pattern appears strongest in those with synesthetic tendencies, Alex continued. People whose sensory pathways cross, who might taste colors or see sounds. Neural structures that already bridge different perceptual realities, Nira mused. It makes perfect sense. Alex pulled up another image, a genetic sequencing chart. I've isolated a marker that appears in everyone with the temporal sensitivity. It's on chromosome 7, a mutation previously associated with perfect pitch in musicians. So these humans could potentially perceive temporal shifts like you? With training, yes, but there's more. Alex's voice dropped despite their privacy safeguards. I found historical records of people throughout human history describing experiences consistent with temporal perception. Artists, musicians, certain meditation practitioners. We've been dismissing these accounts as hallucinations or mystical experiences. Neera's skin flickered with excitement. Your species has been touching the temporal fabric all along without recognizing it. Which brings us to the most important question, Alex said, pulling up the final image. Earth surrounded by a swirling mass of data points. What if the temporal anomaly the elders detected isn't a natural disaster, but the awakening of this ability across our population? Neera stared at the projection, colors shifting rapidly as she processed the implications. A spontaneous evolutionary leap. Exactly. Not an extinction event, but a transformation. A soft alert tone interrupted. Them, the door sensor. They quickly switched their displays to innocuous cultural exchange data as the lab door slid open. Elder Mira stood in the doorway, her tall form radiating authority. Behind her stood two Lumerian guards, their skin patterns rigidly controlled, in the formal manner of their security forces. Mother, Neera said, her colors instantly shifting to respectful tones. We weren't expecting you. Clearly, Mira replied, her gaze sweeping the laboratory. The Council has questions about your research focus, Neera. You were assigned to study human cultural paradigms, not neurological structures. Alex stepped forward smoothly. The fault is mine, Elder. I suggested this comparative study might help us understand communication differences between our species. Mira's attention shifted to him, her eyes unreadable. Dr. Reed, you've spent considerable time with my daughter. As part of the exchange program, yes. Mira moved further into the lab, examining their workstations. The Council has decided to accelerate our timetable. We depart in 3 days. Alex and Neera exchanged alarmed glances. So soon? Neera asked. The exchange was scheduled for 3 more months. Circumstances have changed, Mira stated flatly. Our sensors have detected acceleration in the temporal disturbance patterns. The phenomenon appears to be progressing more rapidly than projected. Alex felt cold dread spreading through him. What does that mean for Earth? Mira turned to him, her expression carefully neutral. It means, Dr. Reed, that our research mission must prioritize different objectives now. She gestured to the guards. Please escort Dr. Reed back to the human quarters. Neera and I need to discuss Council matters privately. As the guards moved toward him, Alex caught Neera's eye. Her skin flashed a pattern they had established as a warning. They know something. Of course, Alex said politely. Thank you for the cultural insights today, Neera. As he was led from the lab, Alex's mind raced. 3 days wasn't enough time. They needed to warn the others, to prepare somehow for whatever was coming, whether extinction or evolution. You've been consorting with a human, Elder Mira stated once they were alone. Not a question, but an accusation. Neera kept her colors carefully neutral. I've been fulfilling my assigned role as cultural liaison. Do not insult my intelligence. Mira's skin darkened with authority patterns. Our sensors detected unauthorized temporal fluctuations originating from your quarters. You've been practicing forbidden techniques with him. Neera had anticipated this possibility, but had hoped for more time. Mother, there's something extraordinary about him, about humans generally. They're not what we thought. The Council has studied humanity for millennia, Mira said dismissively. A few weeks of personal interaction doesn't supersede our collected wisdom. Then why is Alex able to maintain consciousness during temporal shifts? Why do 20% of humans carry genetic markers for temporal perception? Neera challenged, her colors flaring with conviction. What if the anomaly we detected isn't an ending but a beginning? Mira went still, her colors frozen in shock. You've been testing other humans, investigating their genetic structure, and finding answers the Council has missed, Neera pressed. Humanity isn't heading toward extinction, they're evolving toward temporal awareness. The disturbance patterns match consciousness awakening, not reality collapse. For a moment, something like uncertainty flickered across Mira's colors. Then, her expression hardened. You've allowed personal attachment to cloud your judgment. The Council has reviewed all evidence and reached consensus. The temporal anomaly will destabilize this entire sector. We came to observe and record, not intervene. Because intervention violates our most sacred law, Nira finished bitterly, even when it means watching an entire species perish. Mira's colors softened slightly. Daughter, I understand your distress. First contact experiences often create emotional bonds, but our people learned long ago the dangers of interfering with temporal progression. What if we're wrong? Nira challenged. What if our non-interference is actually interference, preventing humanity from receiving knowledge they need to navigate their own evolution? Enough. Mira's tone was final. You are confined to quarters until departure. Your research data will be reviewed by the Council. After her mother left, Nira stood motionless for exactly 60 seconds, long enough for the security protocols to register her compliance. Then she moved decisively to her workstation. Her fingers danced across the interface, initiating an emergency communication protocol she'd prepared for this contingency. On the human vessel Horizon, Alex's personal communication device would receive a seemingly innocuous cultural exchange message containing embedded access codes to the Lumerian database. As she worked, Nira thought of Alex, of his determination, his curiosity, the way his eyes lit up when discovering something new, of the strange connection that had formed between them, bridging not just different species, but different temporal perceptions. The Council was making a terrible mistake. Humanity deserved a chance. Her message complete, Nira initiated the final step, a targeted temporal shift focused on the data packet. It would arrive in Alex's system seemingly hours before it was sent, bypassing current security monitoring. The effort left her drained, her skin pale with exertion. Using her abilities this way would be detected eventually, but by then it wouldn't matter. She had made her choice. Across the station, Alex felt his device vibrate with an incoming message. When he saw the sender, his heart raced. As he decoded Nira's hidden message, a plan began forming in his mind, a desperate gambit to save not just humanity, but perhaps Nira as well. He would need help. Touching his communication device, he sent a simple message to the 17 crew members who shared his temporal sensitivity. Emergency meeting, Lab 4, 1 hour, the future needs us. Lab 4 hummed with nervous energy as Alex faced the 17 crew members he'd identified with temporal sensitivity. Engineers, scientists, a cook, 2 security officers, a cross-section of humanity united by an unusual genetic marker and the capacity to perceive what others couldn't. I know this sounds impossible, Alex concluded after explaining everything, but the evidence is irrefutable. In 3 days, the Lumerians leave, taking with them perhaps our only chance to understand what's happening to Earth. Lieutenant Maya Ortiz, the ship's quantum physicist, spoke first. You're saying we can actually perceive and potentially manipulate time? Not exactly like the Lumerians, Alex clarified. Their abilities evolved over millions of years. But our brains are wired with a similar potential, one that's apparently activating across our population. He displayed Nira's smuggled data, a planetary scan showing growing clusters of temporal disturbance centered on population areas. These aren't random anomalies. They follow human neural activity patterns. Earth isn't facing destruction. It's experiencing an evolutionary leap in consciousness. But the Lumerian Council believes it's catastrophic, Engineer Patel noted. Why? Because it doesn't fit their understanding of temporal physics, Alex explained. To them, our chaotic, unpredictable approach to time perception looks like a dangerous anomaly. So what exactly do you propose we do? Asked Security Chief Reeves skeptically. Alex took a deep breath. We need to prove the Lumerians wrong by demonstrating collective temporal resonance. He outlined Nira's theory. If enough temporally sensitive humans synchronized their consciousness, they could potentially create a stable temporal field, proving that humanity's evolution wasn't a threat, but a new form of temporal awareness. This is the sequence, he explained, displaying the neural pattern Neera had identified. If we can synchronize our brainwaves to match this frequency, we might create a large enough effect for their sensors to detect and correctly interpret. And if we fail? Someone asked. Then at least we tried, Alex answered honestly. But Neera, here's risking everything to help us. I believe she's right about what's happening. After a moment of silence, Maya stepped forward. I've spent my career studying quantum entanglement. If consciousness can influence quantum states, and there's growing evidence it can, then this theory isn't as far-fetched as it sounds, Wenfo. By one, the others agreed to try. For the next 48 hours, they worked in shifts practicing the mental exercises Neera had provided. Alex coordinated with her through coded messages, keeping her updated on their progress, while she monitored Lumerian sensor data for any sign their efforts were working. With 12 hours remaining before the Lumerian departure, Alex gathered everyone for their final attempt. They sat in a circle, electrodes monitoring their neural activity as they prepared for the synchronized meditation. Remember, Alex instructed, don't try to stop time or control it. Just perceive it. Feel the moment between moments, the space where now becomes then. They began the carefully practiced breathing pattern. On screens around them, their brainwave patterns slowly aligned, approaching the target frequency Neera had identified. Alex closed his eyes, focusing on the sensation he'd experienced with Neera, that crystalline fragmentation of reality, the feeling of time as a tangible dimension that could be perceived directly. Gradually, a strange resonance built in the room. The air seemed to thicken, light bent in subtle ways around objects. The monitoring equipment began registering unprecedented quantum fluctuations, and then, connection. Alex felt the other's consciousness like stars in a constellation, each distinct yet part of a greater pattern. Through their linked awareness, he sensed the station around them, the people moving through it, time flowing like a river with currents and eddies. On his communication device, a message from Neera appeared. The Council's sensors are detecting it. Keep going. As their synchronization deepened, Alex perceived something else. A vast network of similar awareness emerging across Earth, humans unknowingly reaching toward this new perception. The temporal anomaly wasn't chaos. It was communication. Humanity's collective consciousness beginning to perceive the temporal dimension. We need to push further, he told the group, his voice oddly resonant in the charged atmosphere. Show them what humanity is becoming. Together, they reached deeper into the temporal field. The Lumerian Council chamber fell silent as the holographic display showed unmistakable evidence. The human temporal pattern had stabilized. What their instruments had interpreted as chaotic breakdown was reorganizing into a coherent field, different from Lumerian temporal perception, but equally valid. Impossible, one elder whispered. Mira stood before the council, her colors shifting between amazement and vindication. Beside her, Neera watched with barely contained hope. My daughter predicted this outcome, Mira acknowledged. The humans aren't experiencing temporal collapse. They're evolving a unique form of temporal consciousness. This changes our entire understanding of conscious evolution, another elder admitted. The council debated intensely before reaching consensus. The mission parameters would change. Instead of merely observing humanity's supposed extinction, they would establish formal diplomatic relations with a species now recognized as emerging temporal beings. Across the station, Alex and his team slowly returned to normal consciousness, exhausted but triumphant. The synchronized meditation had lasted nearly 6 hours, though to them it had felt like both an instant and eternity. Did it work? Maya asked, removing her monitoring electrodes. Before Alex could answer, the lab door opened. Elder Mira entered, followed by several council members and Neera, whose skin glowed with barely contained excitement. Dr. Reed, Mira addressed him formally, the council requests your presence at an emergency diplomatic session with your captain. The parameters of our mission have evolved. The meeting that followed rewrote the future of human-Lumerian relations. Captain Tanner listened in astonishment as the Lumerian Council explained the true nature of their mission and the remarkable discovery made possible by Alex's team. "We propose a joint research initiative," Elder Mira explained. "Your species is developing temporal awareness through a completely different evolutionary path than our own. Together, we might unlock temporal physics neither of us could discover alone." Later, when the formal proceedings concluded, Alex found Nira waiting in a quiet observation deck, her skin shimmering with colors he now recognized as joy. "You did it," she said as he joined her at the viewport. "You proved humanity isn't facing extinction, but transformation." "We did it," Alex corrected. "Without you, we'd never have understood what was happening until it was too late." They gazed out at the stars together, comfortable in the silence that followed. Finally, Nira spoke again. "The Council has appointed me official liaison to Earth for the Temporal Research Initiative." Her colors shifted to patterns Alex had come to recognize as personal rather than professional. "I'll be working closely with human researchers for years to come." "Any particular researchers in mind?" Alex asked with a smile. "Perhaps one or two," she answered, her colors warming. When she extended her hand this time, Alex took it without hesitation. The now familiar sensation washed over them, time slowing, reality crystallizing into beautiful facets around them. But this time, they weren't alone in the perception. Throughout the station, the 17 others who had participated in the synchronization felt the ripple and momentarily perceived the temporal shift. And far away on Earth, thousands of genetically predisposed humans experienced a strange moment. Of déjà vu, a fleeting glimpse into a dimension their species was just beginning to perceive. Nira's skin glowed with wonder as she sensed the expanding network of temporal awareness. "This is just the beginning, isn't it? For all of us." "That's the thing about humans," Alex replied, squeezing her hand gently as the universe sparkled around them in frozen splendor. "We never stop evolving, never stop reaching for what seems impossible. Even time itself," Nira agreed. "Especially time," Alex said. And together, they stepped forward into a future neither of their species had imagined possible. A future where time wasn't a barrier between worlds but a bridge. Around Earth, the temporal anomaly that had alarmed the Lumerians continued to grow. Not a catastrophe, but an awakening. Humanity's unique relationship with time was taking its next evolutionary step, reaching toward a consciousness that could perceive reality in all its dimensions. And it had begun with a simple touch between two species who found, despite everything that made them different, something that made them the same: the courage to reach across boundaries, to question established wisdom, and to believe that understanding, even across the vast gulfs of space, time, and biology, was always possible. That perhaps was the most human trait of all.